Let's do a quick 30-team trip around the NBA, updating you on all of the injuries. Michael Bolton, sit back and enjoy.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and for lunch today, I'm going to have something, like cool, like a cigarette and like 2 to 3 bottles of red wine and then a bowl of heavy cream. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_Beeble, on TikTok at redrock_Beeble, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also check out LockedOnDaily.com. Newsletter on your favorite team delivered to your inbox every day of all of the goings on around your team. LockedOnDaily.com. Also going to get that double bang from you guys and a thumb, and let's hit the 80K sub. I don't know. What will I do if I get 80K? I don't know. Probably something, then I forget about it. But happy to get suggestions from you guys down in the old chat. 30 teams. Let's go through them. A disclaimer again. I don't know when these players are coming back. My job is to try and predict. All right. Yesterday, in the recap show, I said I'm not really sure that that's anything super serious for Chet. I don't know. It looked like a hard fall. Looked really uncomfortable, obviously. I said maybe there was some damage internally, something similar to the way I suffered, but I don't think so. Maybe he misses a game or two, it's a bad bruise, whatever. Well, obviously I was wrong on that, right? He fractured his hip. Don't really see that sort of an injury happen. Not his hip, sorry. Someone pointed out to me, and I do appreciate that. It's not his hip, it's not the socket, it's the wing of the pelvis, so up the top there. So it is different. It's in the same layman's anatomical region, so yeah, the side of your body, but it is correct. It is not your actual hip joint, so thank you to that man for pointing that out to me, because I do like to be accurate on that stuff. And I was using more of the layman terms versus the medical diagnosis part of it. My bad, and I do apologize for that. So he fractured that iliac wing of his pelvis, which is not something that I expected, and got it wrong. But my job is, and what I do here is try and predict stuff. I could very easily sit back on this show with anything and be like, I don't know. We'll wait and see after it happens, and then we'll work on the information. Like, what's the point of that? I've got to use all the information, my experience in this profession and the other profession I used to have, to try and determine things with injuries and any sort of performance. That's part of what we do. So in saying all of this, these are the injuries that we know across the NBA. I am trying to give as best of an indication of timeframes on these players. There are going to be plenty that are wrong without any question whatsoever. Yes, got that part cleared out, but I have to try and project them all. Let's start in Atlanta today. Still not much different on this team. Bogdanovic with a hamstring. We're looking at an early December return there. Kobe Buffkin early December with his shoulder. Vic Krejci's groin, maybe we're talking about a week and a half for him to return. And then DeAndre Hunter, his knee allegedly is fine now, and the reason that he was missing the last couple of games was a personal issue, and that personal issue he wasn't giving birth. That would be probably a bit stressful on his body. His partner was giving birth, and he looks like he'll be ready to return. So what that does for Zach Ricochet will be very, very interesting to see. I don't know that Ricochet will come off the bench immediately, but it is something that could happen, and that would impact Ricochet's value. But Hunter's returning. I don't think he's a must-add at all. I have seen DeAndre Hunter for many years, and he has very rarely ever been a player who we look at as a must-add player. But it'll be something to watch. Cody Zeller, I don't know why that says Yahoo points next to him, because, he's generating 0 of those. He's not playing at all this season for the Hawks. And the other one there is Seth Lundy, who is dealing with an ankle issue. And he's a two-way guy, and not really even sure why I included him, to be honest. As for those replacement players, it's a lot of the same stuff. But once we get Krejci and then Buffkin and then Bogdanovic back, the value of like a Garrison Matthews and even like David Roddy's value is already decreased, and Ricochet's value is going to decrease in those sort of situations as well. I don't think there's going to be a gigantic hit to Dyson Daniels, but there'll be a little bit of something, maybe just a little bit of an edge off the top of what Daniels is producing. On the Boston side of things, it's Kristaps Porzingis still looking at around probably a Christmas return around that time frame, and we've seen what's happening. Al Horford plays, and then it's Nemesh Keita, and it's Luke Cornett, and it's Xavier Tillman, and Horford will continue to sit back-to-backs, and it'll continue to be a bit of a guessing game in terms of what they do with the centers. But Keita seems to be the guy in favor, but there's also no way of knowing that. And then Jaden Springer is questionable at the moment with a knee issue, but he is just not a part of the rotation, so that doesn't really impact us much at all. New entry onto the Brooklyn Nets injury report was Dorian Finney-Smith with an ankle injury. He's questionable. If he misses, and he's been playing a little bit of center, it would mean that Ben Simmons plays a little bit more center in those configurations. But it also just opens up things for someone like maybe Noah Clowney, also like a Jalen Wilson. Probably not enough to matter in most formats, but it would be something to watch. And then the three guys that haven't played yet remain out, Day'Ron Sharpe and Trendon Watford. I just realized I got the wrong thing under the wrong name. My bad. Day'Ron Sharpe's hamstring is going to probably keep him out until the 19th is the date I've got there. I've got Bojan Bogdanovic's ankle and wrist till around that same time, and then Trendon Watford to about the 25th of November, even though I've got that hamstring tag on YouTube there mixed up with Bojan. Bojan's is the ankle wrist, and Trendon Watford is the hamstring. My apologies there. Watford I don't think is going to have much of an impact. It'll just be like back-end guys. But that adds the Sharpe and Watford and even the Bogdanovic return will have an impact on Clowney and probably have some sort of an impact on Finney-Smith. But yeah, we don't really have any sort of concrete information from the Nets on any of those players. The Charlotte Hornets, Miles Bridges with the knee bone bruise. I've got him out until about the 30th of November. Remember, when a team puts out and says reevaluated in 2 weeks, I usually like to tack an extra week onto that because a reevaluation means they check how it's going, and then sometimes they'll say day-to-day moving forward, we'll recheck in a week. It's very rare they say reevaluation, he's actually suiting up tonight. That is so super rare that those timeframes that are given, you got to add extra stuff onto the top. So that's what we've done with Bridges. Put him out until the 30th of November with that bone bruise. And Grant Williams in this short term is someone to consider adding. And in deeper leagues, you look at Tidjane Salahin or Moussa Diabate because their centers are out as well. Mark Williams with a foot issue, I just have no idea. And for those of you who aren't on YouTube, you might see the abbreviation there, or those on YouTube will see it. The others of you won't see it. It says WFK. I could have put NFI in that spot as well, and WFK, the W stands for who, and the K stands for nose, because I've got no idea when Mark Williams is returning. I thought it might have been week 2, but we're in week 4 and we still don't really know. And honestly, this is just not anywhere close to the nonsense that we suffered last year with Charlotte. It's still frustrating, but it's not even in the same realm, the same ballpark as that. Maybe Mark returns this week, but I don't know. I've got BDNR, Nick Richards, out with the shoulder until about the 23rd of November. I fear that could push another week or two after as well. And then Daquan Jeffries with his hand fracture. Will he ever play a single second this season? I don't know. He was a part of that Karl Anthony Towns trade. He's not going to factor much. But with BDNR, with Mark Williams, with Miles Bridges out, it does mean Grant Williams is an option. And it does mean that Diabate and Gibson are deeper league options. So is Tidjane Salahin. Onto the Bulls, Zach LaVine with the adductor issue. He's already had the shoulder issue and then now the adductor issue. He's listed probable, so it appears like we're okay there and out of the woods, but fingers crossed. Jalen Smith popped up on the injury report today with an illness. He's questionable. And then Lonzo Ball's wrist issue. I've ruled Lonzo out so far for the next 2 games. That'll mean a 15th of November return, but we just don't have an update on it. I believe that first 10-day period has now elapsed and we haven't heard, and this is part of the reason. Again, I didn't want anything to do with Lonzo for fantasy this season because we knew they'd be super cautious on him with the knee, limiting his minutes and keeping him out of back-to-backs, which already gives you such a low floor. And then that doesn't account for anything else that might crop up. And this is the anything else that's cropped up already. So yeah, we don't need to do that with Lonzo. It does help Ayo and it helps like Giddey get a couple of extra minutes when Lonzo's out, but it's going to be a frustrating situation, I'm pretty sure, with Lonzo for most of the season. I'd be very surprised if it isn't. Today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Or Mobile. Did you say mobile or mobile? I'll say mobile because with big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Between getting into the store and then getting your first month's bill, the price that you thought you were paying, it magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. Well, they mean it. So say goodbye or say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with a high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That is mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Let's continue going around the NBA and finding out some more about some teams and some injuries. In Cleveland, the NBA's current best team has one injury, and it's one of their starters. It's Max Strus dealing with that significant ankle sprain. We've got him returning around the start of December. I don't think there's any sort of priority stash. He might be useful in a fantasy league. It'll be a bit of a slow ramp up, but they're also showing that A, they don't need him, and B, that they're not going to push guys extra minutes. So maybe he's instead of a 34-minute player, he's a 29-minute player. That would obviously hurt Okoro and Wade and maybe a little bit onto LeVert. I think Strus is going to be like a 12-team streamer and a 14-team league guy when he returns. But like we've dealt with this absence all season. It'll continue for a few more weeks and we're good to go. Don't have any updates on the Dallas guys yet. PJ Washington and Derek Lively. They've missed the last 2 games. And what we saw last game is a huge boost from Daniel Gafford and Najee Marshall becoming at least 12-team streamable. I don't have any real feel on these guys returning. I'm just going to list them questionable for the next game. There's nothing to say that there was a specific injury that we saw that we need to take a look at. And I did it again. Oh, no, I didn't. No. PJ Washington is the knee. I thought I mixed the labels up. PJ Washington is the knee and Derek Lively is the shoulder. And then Dante Exum's wrist. He hasn't played this season. We've got him out until about the middle of January. He's not going to have any sort of real fantasy impact whatsoever this season. On the Denver Nuggets side of things, Aaron Gordon with the calf. We've got him returning at the beginning of December, and that's your window for Peyton Watson to continue to cook. Big minutes last game. Now it's obviously annoying that they don't play for the next 4 days, and your decision whether you need that spot to stream right now is a personal one. I can't make that choice for you. You need to look at where you sit, how your roster looks, how banged up is it, where you are in the standings. Do you need to just absolutely just like force feed games in this 4 days, or can you sit on a guy that might be top 80 over the next 3 weeks? I personally, and I hate that phrase, and I can't believe I said it again. I personally. Of course it's personally. What am I going to say? From my perspective with someone else's words coming out? No way. I personally, yeah. I think that Peyton Watson is worth the hold. But that other decision on how it looks on your roster and your individual circumstances is up to you. And then Vlatko Čančar with his ankle, has he even played this season coming off the ACL and now another injury? I don't think we need to worry too much about that. Good news for Detroit fans, because Ausar Thompson has been cleared by the NBA's return to play commission regarding his blood clot. Awesome. He's got to get some conditioning in now. We've got to return around the 21st of November. I know that everyone is going to rush to add Ausar Thompson, and I don't have a problem with it. You know one of the commandments, get ahead of it. Totally okay to do that. If you want to get ahead of Ausar Thompson, that's cool. I don't know how much he plays. I think he's really good. I think he's an unbelievable defender, but that position at the moment is being filled by Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley and Simone Fontecchio. The Pistons' 3 best shooters. And we know that in order for they've been way more successful this season because they have legitimate shooters. So do you want to add Ausar Thompson next to a below-average shooter in Jaden Ivey, a non-shooter in Jalen Duren, and honestly, probably close to, or at least an average shooter in Cade Cunningham. And even an average shooter in Tobias Harris. That could get really messy. So how do you take out? Like Ron Holland's 15 minutes a night, they're gone, right? I don't think he's going to play. Ausar probably plays 22 a night, 23 a night, but I don't think it's going to be the same as early last season where he play 29 minutes a night and cook. So while, yeah, like it's appealing, I'm not super certain that we're getting just 29 minutes from him by the time we hit Christmas. I don't think that's happening because that importance of the Hardaway, Beasley, Fontecchio shooting group, and they're combining for like 60 minutes a game just to make sure there's shooting on the court, is something to watch. Jalen Duren has missed 2 consecutive games with his 74th career ankle sprain, I believe. Isaiah Stewart is the guy that we stream in until Duren is back. Duren's not a drop, but he's also not a drop. He's pretty close to it, just with his performance, not even the injury. Hold for now. And then Bobby Klintman, 2nd-round pick, hasn't played yet. I've got him back in a week or so, maybe, but I don't think he's going to factor into the rotation much at all. Golden State Warriors, clean, no injuries. W for them. let's see how long it lasts, but that gets us to those situations of those concerns about what the rotation does. If they are completely free of injuries, are they are they going to be annoying? The answer is yeah. Onto the Houston Rockets. Fred VanVleet popped up on the injury report. He is out on Monday with hamstring soreness. Didn't really see that one coming. Now, he did play 37 minutes on Sunday. It is a back-to-back. I think they play Wednesday, Friday, Sunday after that. So I would say there has to be some concern. It's a hamstring. He's an older player, right? That's a concern. So I would guess that maybe he sits on Wednesday, but it also could be nothing. So we'll just watch on that one. There's a real habit at the moment of NBA teams saying, oh yeah, hamstring soreness. And it just turns out to be a strain every time. And I don't know why they keep saying this. And I really don't get what the whole cloak and dagger stuff is regarding hamstring injuries or just injuries in general or why they're doing it. But they are. So that's what's happening. With Fred out, it'll be interesting what they do. Last season, they'd start Amen Thompson, but now they have Reed Shepherd. I would expect that they start Amen Thompson, and it means more for Reed. Just make sure that Amen is rostered. Reed, I wouldn't go and grab him yet. If you see that he's starting, he'd be an interesting stream for Monday. In fact, he probably still is somewhat of an interesting stream, but Udoka also has in his back pocket the old Aaron Holiday card, so just don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if we get that one played. I don't think it'll happen, but don't be shocked. Reed does become a stream guy, though, for Monday. Steven Adams is just constantly going to be on this list with his knee. They just sit him all the time, and his knee appears rooted. And then Jock Landale is dealing with a shoulder problem. Looks like he'll miss a game or two there. In Indiana, two of their guards/wings are out, Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith. Nembhard out until about the 25th of November and Nesmith until December. That is allowing a lot of Benedict Mathurin. And at the moment, he is cooking. And someone left a comment and said, oh man, you're so wrong on Mathurin. He's awesome. Yeah, that's all good. But I don't like to be someone that's like negative on performances. But it is important to note that when two of your wing players are out, he has to play more minutes. He's doing it on insane shooting, which is almost no way of holding at that level. And we saw it just with Buddy Hield. That when other players return, and the shooting cools off, you turn into nothing. And I'm not saying Mathurin's going to turn into nothing. He is a must-roster player, and he looks really good. And I would say he's got a real shot of starting over at least one of Nembhard and Nesmith. I'd say there's a real chance of that. But it's all about you're taking it. It's the perfect thing. The shot goes up when the minutes and usage go up at the same time, making you look way, way better than what the realistic rest of season expectations should be. You don't have to hold Nembhard or Nesmith at all. The other one is Obi Toppin, who missed the last game with an ankle issue. That gave more minutes to Jarris Walker. It gave someone like Enrique Freeman a few minutes there as well, but we don't have to roster Toppin. He's not very good. Walker's a touch-and-go guy. I think that's just deeper league stuff, though. I don't really see that longer-term appeal there. We'll go to the LA Clippers, and it's the same injury report we've had all season. Kawhi Leonard with his knee, and he's got a WFK on there as well, because I just don't have any clue. Someone posited to me, said maybe the issue with Kawhi was he had a meniscus repair surgery, and that's why it's taking so long. And meniscus repair is a 6-month injury, and maybe that's possible. What doesn't jive with that is he had the surgery apparently in May, but then he went to Team USA camp in July, and now he's still not ready. There's something that just doesn't add up at all with this Kawhi scenario. Why was he able to be there, and then I don't know why they said he can't play on the team. He's perfectly fine. Oh, the surgery was actually before that, though. None of it makes sense. So, that would make sense in terms of timeline about the May surgery, unless he had a meniscus trim, went to Team USA camp, he wrecked it again, and then had to go in for surgery after that, which would mean 6 months in August, a second hidden surgery they didn't tell us about, which most times I just blow off as a conspiracy. But it's the Clippers, and it's Kawhi, so you know what? Literally anything's on the table. Anything could have happened. I just don't know when he's coming back. That's why I avoided him as much as I could. Mo Bamba hasn't played this season. Maybe, I've got a return date of the 20th of November, but yeah, he's very close to the WFK designation as well. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle all of the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 with FanDuel and get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL. Obviously, they've got the bets. That's the number one thing, all the odds and the lines and that are there. But you open it up and you can see the live stats. You can see the live play-by-play analysis as the game is going on instead of having to open up different apps and different pages. It's all there in that one spot. So in the middle of the game, when you get a hunch, all your information is right there at your fingertips. So go to FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, let us get around the rest of the NBA now. We'll go to the Lakers, and we've got Anthony Davis suffered a poke in the eye last game. He's allegedly couldn't see properly after the game. He's going to see an ophthalmologist to see exactly what's going on with the eye. Look, there is a chance that he has to wear goggles here. There's a chance that he misses a game. I don't think it's going to be anything long-term. Fingers crossed. If it is, it would be Jackson Hayes there because the other backups are all injured. Or Christian Koloko for deeper leagues would be someone to watch as well. But I don't think it's anything too major, thankfully. But who knows? Jared Vanderbilt, Barron, Christian Wood, foot injury for Vanderbilt and knee injury for Wood. I've got them both back in about a week or so, but I would be much more skeptical about Vanderbilt returning. This is an injury that happened for him, February or something? And then he was out and they thought maybe he was coming back and we're still going. It looked like a shocking injury at the time. Like it looked like a torn Achilles, honestly. It wasn't, but it was some sort of foot issue that's lasted this long. And I am very worried about him coming back even before Christmas, honestly. I just don't know. Wood, I think, will be back and he'll be Christian Wood and he'll be bad and he'll have a couple of big games and people get excited and then he'll be bad again. That is the Christian Wood experience. In Memphis, we've got the big group of injuries, of course. Des Bane with his oblique injury. Still looking at a couple of weeks there. I've got 29th of November. For him, Ja Morant with the hip issue, I'm looking at the start of December, first week of December. This is going to be a longer term thing, which is frustrating, obviously. Marcus Smart is returning, though. He's dealing with this ankle problem. I expect that he plays either the next game or the one after, and I think that he would start and Scottie Pippen would go back to the bench. Pippen will still be useful, obviously, but any player that returns back is going to have an impact on the guys that are currently getting value, like Pippen, like Aldama, like Jake LaRavia, like the big fella Jay Huff, all because everyone just sort of slides up and down. Huff was amazing yesterday, but it's really hard to be a consistent guy in 15 minutes a night. That's really hard to do, and that's a stream with desperation sort of scenario, but otherwise, it's really, really tough to predict that as being an ongoing thing. Vince Williams is probably the next guy to return after that. We've got him returning around the 23rd of November with the stress reactions in his shin. I believe he's doing some work with the G League team at the moment. So probably 2 weeks away there. GG Jackson's about a Christmas return. I don't think he's going to have any impact for fantasy this season at all, GG. So just a lot of that same stuff with the LaRavia or even the Jalen Wells as well. I think Wells moves away from being 12-team streamable with Smart returning back to being a points and threes specialist-y sort of guy for deeper formats, as much as I have liked what he's done so far to begin the year. In Miami, James Butler, General Soreness, was not able to be his super competitive playoff Jimmy self and go into Minnesota, the team that he shit on for so long, to play them again. It's just so unfortunate he hasn't been able to play in Minnesota at all over that time period. I don't know how severe this ankle injury is. They haven't told us anything, but it's Jimmy Butler, so it's probably going to linger, and it's probably going to recur at some point. They started Kevin Love, unbelievably, in his place. Well, not really. They started Kevin Love in place of Jovic, and then Haywood Highsmith in place of Butler, but I would imagine when Butler returns, Highsmith slides over, but whatever, who cares? Highsmith's been really good in getting defensive stats. Jovic was pretty good off the bench. It was very disappointing from Jaquez, but I also don't think that Jaquez is going to play 16 minutes a night. So what we saw last game without Butler, I don't think is really super indicative of anything that would happen the next game when Butler's out. So, yeah, I'm not super keen on holding Jaquez long term. I don't think it's going to be a thing. But while Butler's out, he's not a bad option there. Highsmith's a streaming guy, maybe. Jovic is just a deeper league player, but, it's very hard to sort of judge that based on that last game. We've got our next WFK entry here, and that is Chris Middleton with the Bucks with his ankle surgeries. We thought, happy night, should be ready. Oh, cool, we're 3 weeks in, he hasn't returned yet. Still being incredibly vague about giving us updates on Middleton's situation, and given how long this is taking, he will not play 30 minutes a night until, you would guess, after December. I thought there was a chance he'd come in, be ready, be up to 30 minutes by the second week of November. But the longer this takes, the longer it's going to take to get there, and the less likelihood we actually get to 30 minutes at any point before the All-Star break, maybe. I don't know. This is just the same sort of playbook as last season, which is incredibly annoying. Gary Trent is dealing with back spasms. He missed the last game. He struggled the game before that. He's also struggled all season, but that's nothing to do with the back. That's to do with being Gary Trent. The other situation there is that AJ Green and Andre Jackson have outperformed him. So we'll see what happens with Trent. We're very clearly not rostering. And even if you think that Gary Trent's a rosterable player in 12-team leagues, welcome to the show for the first time. It's good to have you here. We do this all day. We talk about fantasy basketball all the time, and I'm good to have you, and I hope you stick around. Shout out to holding on to Gary Trent. Don't do it. That's where the injuries sit with the Milwaukee Bucks. On the Minnesota Timberwolves, like the Golden State Warriors, they are completely naked. Nothing on the injury report, which is a W. Not like that I can say the same for this next team, the New Orleans Pelicans, where all of their good players are out. Zion Williamson with a hamstring. We've got him back around the beginning of December. This is... I hate how they manage this. Hate it. Despicable. I hate it. Really frustrating. The value there in him is going to be BJ. It's going to be Trey Murphy returning, obviously, and a little bit of Jeremiah Robinson. That's a deeper league play. DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones. I've got them all set about the 25th of November. It's very unlikely they all return on the same day, but it's just hard to know exactly when they're back. Well, Geordie Hawkins I've got back about a week earlier with his back issues on about the 19th of November. You don't have to hold Hawkins. In fact, if you're in real trouble, I don't think you necessarily have to hold Herb Jones, to be fair. Especially in a points league. You definitely don't do that in a points league. CJ and DeJounte, yeah, of course you do. We know what the story is here. It's a must roster Jose Alvarado. Trey Murphy's back. He's a must roster very clearly. Brandon Boston's a must roster, I think, at this point. And Robinson Earls, let's see what happens. And so is Yves Missy. I don't really see that as a must roster thing for him, though. In New York, we have a couple of hamstrings. One of them is Precious Achiuwa, who they say is doing some on-court work at the moment, not practicing just yet. I've got an 18th of November return for Precious. When he comes back, he will be at least somewhat of a playable rotation piece. At the moment, it's really just Juice McBride, but he'll come back and probably play 20 minutes as a backup 4 and 5. That's only going to be deeper leagues, but what his return will do is mean that if someone else does go down, he might, like a Josh Hart or a Bridges or an Anunoby or a Towns, he's going to be the guy to look at there. Cameron Payne, I don't know why they're just not ruling him out with a hamstring. It's like doubtful, then out, doubtful, then out, doubtful, then out. He's doubtful again. Let's just say he's out for 2 weeks here, but you know. And then Mitchie Robinson, we've got around a New Year's Day return from his ankle surgery. I would suggest they'd be very cautious given the repetitive ankle injuries, the double surgery I think he had on the ankle, and the fact that he's also just not that good. And he will. I don't think that he will come in and start next to Towns or anything along those lines. I don't think that he is a valid stash in most formats. We did a whole show yesterday on the Chet Holmgren injury, the iliac wing fracture. I have got his return at about the start of February. They said an evaluation in 8 to 10 weeks. That's 2+ months. That's 2.5 months reevaluation. And given the significant and serious nature of this injury, this has the potential. I would say that given the nature of this injury, it is more likely he does not play in the regular season than he is back in 8 weeks. He's just not coming back in 8 weeks. This to me is like reevaluate in 10 weeks and they go, yeah, we got another month to go at least. I've said the 7th of February there in terms of return. After the All-Star wouldn't be a shock. And that's bad, clearly. What is interesting, though, is that Kenrich Williams, miraculously off the injury report. He's ready to play today. Now, he's coming off knee surgery. I don't know how much he's going to play immediately, but those of you in deeper leagues, he is now the only center available. He won't play 27 minutes. He just won't do that. They'll still play small. He's not even big anyway. But he plays a lot of center. And he does have an ability to put up weird fantasy lines. So take a look at him. Consider a stream in 12s. Maybe even today. Probably not, but maybe, given there's so few games on. Pig Williams, we got out until about the start of December. That's the big Jalen Williams. If he was available, he'd actually be a 12-team stream option, but he's not. He's out for a while. And then I've got Isaiah Hartenstein around the 25th of November returning from his hand injury. So that's about 2 weeks away from him returning. Maybe it sneaks up a little bit earlier than that. I believe the initial reevaluation date they gave was around the 21st of November. So I think he should be looking to that mark to get back. In Orlando, 2 injuries. One of them is Paolo Banchero. We've got a bit more accuracy on his sort of injury timetable. It's not a good timetable, but we're talking about around Christmas for him to return. We're seeing Tristan Da Silva, old Aravinda, starting in his place. He's a deeper league stream guy for points and threes and nothing more. It's more opportunity from Mr. Black, but that's just an out of position blocks and some assists type of stream. More of a 14 to 16 team league guy. And then the other one is Wendell Carter Jr. And that's probably the big one at the moment because we don't know how long Carter's going to be out. Plantar fascia issues can last 3 months. He could play through the pain in a day. I don't know. I'm listing him doubtful for the next game. And while he is out, we just roster Goga Bitadze. You can consider Mo Wagner, but we roster Goga Bitadze. And then when Wendell returns, we see what happens, and then we make the appropriate decision on Goga then. But I just don't know when it's going to change. I don't know when Wendell is going to return. I wouldn't be shocked if he's out the whole week. I wouldn't be shocked if he's out 3 weeks. Or I wouldn't be shocked if he tried to play and then sits every second game for a while. All those things are possibilities at the moment. In Philadelphia, we've got one injury there with Tyrese Maxey. Hamstring injury keeping him out till about the 20th of November. That could push a little bit longer. Kyle Lowry is totally reasonable as a stream guy, understanding that he's not going to score much, but he does everything else. Last game we saw Jared McCain go absolutely bananas with his scoring, and that's what he does. He's a scorer, but Joel Embiid is likely to return next game, meaning that those touches that McCain was getting, they disappear. Not completely, but they're not there anymore. That volume is not there. Jared is an interesting option because Embiid will sit on Wednesday, and McCain is going to get minutes. Like, very clearly, he is going to get minutes. I just don't think it'll be 30 minutes with scoring 25 points a game. So he's a nice deep league ad, Jared McCain. A 12-team streamer, maybe. And that's where we're at. Embiid is back. Allegedly. Theoretically, he shouldn't have been able to serve his suspension unless he was healthy to go. And if he does sit this game on Tuesday, the NBA will kill the Sixers. They will. I assure you that you will get some of the biggest fines going. They will kill him if he doesn't play. He will sit Wednesday, of course, but Embiid is ready to return. That means I don't really care to hold Andre Drummond. I would move on. Gershon Yabusele has been outplaying him, and there is a chance, I think, that Yabusele maybe even gets some minutes over Caleb Martin in the starting lineup. I wouldn't add Gershon, but it's something to watch nonetheless, especially with Embiid back now, and we'll see how they run that. In Phoenix, Kevin Durant has the calf strain. I've got him out for, they said, at least 2 weeks. That's an old man, a calf strain. I've got him out until the 5th of December. That's a long period of time. I think that Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen are worth 12-team looks, even though they both shot poorly last game. If you nog the shooting percentages, everything else was in line. We loved it. I think they're fine for 12s at the moment. O'Neal over Allen, overdone. Yusuf Nurkic hurt his ankle last game. Well, no, that's not true. He had ankle soreness before the game. He played the first half. The soreness got the better of him. He didn't play the second half. I would guess, given that they said, we'll see how he goes. He's ready to go. Didn't work. That he'll sit the next one, meaning that the cockroach Mason Plumlee is in play for us. And as long as Nurkic is out, Plumlee's an option. Bradley Beal hurt his knee late in that game. He played through it. I don't know that he's officially on the injury report at this stage, but it didn't look great. I think he's going to be okay, and I think he's going to push through it. So despite what people think, despite Bradley Beal paid a lot of money, people think that he's soft and he's always hurt. Like, what? I don't know what more he could have done in that scenario, to be fair. And he's in line for a big uptick in usage. If he is out, then obviously O'Neal and Allen and even Dunn do become even more of 12-team league guys, and there's way more for Tyus Jones to do in that scenario. In Portland, there's only one guy out because both Robert Williams and Shaedon Sharpe are back. It's Matisse Thybulle with his knee injury. And when Thybulle comes back, where's he play? Because at the moment, we've got Chris Murray and Rayan Rupert getting 7-8 minutes a night. Does he just get those 15 minutes? Obviously, we don't really care that much about Thybulle from a fantasy perspective, especially with Denny Avdia and Tumani Kamara holding the role of we don't do anything on offense but do the defensive stuff. I don't know really where Thybulle fits, but this is also the worst team in the NBA from a talent utilization and coaching perspective. So, things could go weird. Malik Monk hurt his ankle last game. I don't believe we've got any sort of definitive time frame on that at this point. I would love to get it. I would love to know where he's at, but I think we're missing at least 2 games here for Malik Monk. And that means that it's all systems go with Vanderpants Kevin Huerter and Keon Ellis. You remove the 26 minutes a night or so that Monk was playing, give it to both of those guys, and it's enough. Devin Carter, we've got middle of January, and Orlando Robinson about a week for his knee, but Robinson's not impacting anything, and Carter, that's a long way away. He's probably not going to do much this season as a rookie. Onto the San Antonio Spurs. Jeremy Sohan is dealing with the thumb issue. We've got a return probably close to Christmas, I'd say, for him. He is a tough hold without IR. I am holding him where I can. I thought he was really strong, but Also not a guy that you have to hold. I am holding him though. Trey Jones, we're maybe 2 to 3 days away or 2 to 3 games away from him returning from his ankle injury. And how they use him with Wesley and Branham and Castle in that rotation will be something to watch, because he was getting the backup point guard minutes and Castle wasn't really doing very much in that role. But now Castle has been starting with Sohan out, which I think will change. And I think Vassell will move in and replace Stephon Castle in that position. Malaka, Branham is dealing with an ankle problem. He's questionable. I also think he's a questionable NBA player, so I'm not really sure that we need to care too much about what the Malaka is up to. In Toronto, Scott Barnes, we're not far off a return, I think, maybe 2 weeks or so. I've got about the 21st of November from his orbital fracture. That'll likely end the value of Ochai Agbaji, who's been playing very, very well, and don't think he'll be able to hold on to that. Bruce Brown may be coming back this week, but we've honestly just heard nothing. And then Kelly Olynyk dealing with back stiffness. We're probably 2 weeks away from that. He would have a role if he had returned before Barnes, but now I don't think he will. So I don't believe that holding Olynyk is a smart move in 12s. Jacoby Walters got that shoulder bruise after coming back from a shoulder issue to begin the season. He's not really a part of the rotation yet, and when he does, I don't think he'll be fantasy relevant. And then Garrett Temple somehow is on this roster and is dealing with back spasms. It's good news for the Jazz. They have the NBA's best schedule this week, along with Dallas, and we were worried about what was happening with Keontae George, not even from his on-court play, because that's been terrible. But he had a foot problem and he missed the last game, but he's been upgraded to questionable. So there is a chance he will be available for that end of week, cornucopia of the Thursday one-day extravaganza highlight showcase game of, Dallas versus Utah. So George looks like he'll return. That'll impact Sexton and Clarkson and any value you may have thought like Isaiah Collier has. It won't happen if Keontae is playing. So he looks like he's ready to go and back. And then the other interesting thing is in Washington, we got news that Kyle Kuzma's off the injury report. Okay, I thought we had at least another week to go on that groin injury. Are they rushing him back for something? I don't know. But he looks like he's available and ready to play. And that will be something to watch because we've seen Keyshawn George pop off without Kuzma. I still think George is worth a hold, but obviously we want to see what happens. We want to see how they use this. Do they just push Valanciunas down even further? Where does George get priority over Kispert? He absolutely should, but we need to see this. Malcolm Brogdon, I think we've got another couple of weeks with his thumb. I have no idea how they're going to incorporate him in there. Like Jared Butler's getting 10 minutes a game. Is that the minutes that Brogdon gets? Are they going to reduce what Carrington does so that Brogdon can play? That would be dumb, but it is possible. But we don't have to worry about that at this point. As for Bub, he had a wrist injury heading into yesterday's game. He got knocked and then hurt his knee. He's questionable here. I believe he is a hold for now. And then the last player on this list is one of the more irrelevant players in the NBA, unfortunately for him at this point. That is old mate Richaun Holmes, who's ill and he's questionable. And that is the injury update for all 30 NBA teams. Injuries create opportunities, guys. So you might have a lot of injuries on your team. I do on some teams, and that's okay because it means there are tons of different options available and tons of different interesting players who we can use and have short-term value on. It's when I talk about fantasy drafts and I talk about there are some people who are like, well, the draft is everything. If you have a bad draft, you're cooked. And I say, well, how do you know you had a bad draft at the time? You don't. But injuries happen, right? And you can have the best draft ever. You cooked this draft. Oh my God, what a draft. You were I beat everybody. And then you have players injured. But if you're not smart and savvy during the season in terms of making moves and getting the right guys on the waiver wire at the right time and moving on and buying and selling and trading and all that stuff, you're not going to have success. It is very easy to see a team that was the best draft fall to smithereens. Oh my God, this guy drafted Victor at 1. He's going to beat everyone. Oh yeah? Victor's been good. He hasn't run away with it though, has he? There are plenty of ways to do that. And that is where when injuries happen, injuries are an opportunity for somebody else to do something. You got to figure it out and take advantage of it. And that's what I hope that we are here to do. Guys, thumb it up, subscribe, 80K, let's go. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.